What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Today I went back to a customer's site and worked on their Bikini. Now, Bikini is a 25-hole bingo. It's a magic screen, and it's got the Futurity feature, which allows you to build up your red letter game for later play. This particular machine had a family of mice living in it at one time, and the mice really did a number on the playfield. Thankfully, they left the wiring alone, but the playfield was really badly damaged by scratching and, most importantly, by urine. The urine actually got underneath the screened ink and started pulling it up, so it had sat with urine on it for a very long time, which doesn't help anything either. So last time I went out there, I got the machine running. I just made it so that it would actually start a game and do the basics of what it needed to do. Today was about prettying it up. So the first thing I did was strip the playfield. I had already done a initial pass and had stripped the playfield last time because it was that filthy. But I didn't have any of my real deep cleaning chemicals and so forth with me. So today I did, and I went in and just cleaned the heck out of that playfield. It now looks very good. It's got brand new rubber. All the posts have been cleaned. All the metal has been cleaned. But of course some of it has rusted and corroded where the mouse urine had sat for a long time. So all that said, the playfield is now looking good. And then I started focusing my attention on troubleshooting. So I went through and did my normal test. I made sure that the game scored in each color, in each position of the screen, for 3, 4, and 5 in a row, as well as in the colored sections. Now, here's where things got really interesting. When it came time to test the blue section, I noticed that it was having a real hard time lighting it. And so I said, this is interesting. This game didn't have very many hacks in it. Or so I thought. So I'm in the back and I'm poking around, and I'm trying to figure out why the blue section isn't lighting, because normally it will light at least 3 in the blue for 300 when the magic screen moves a certain amount. So the unit was stepped all the way up, but the blue section wasn't lit. And I checked the bulbs. There are a variety of bad sockets in this particular game, but it wasn't that. The bulb itself actually wasn't lit. So I said, this is interesting. And I looked closer. There's an extra relay. I said, I don't remember there being a relay there in Bikini. And underneath there was a Bally service tag. And the technician that had worked on this game had actually written a note. And he said, CN3 in the book. Well, this game didn't actually come with the appropriate manual. So it did come with a schematic that the mice had chewed on and scratched up and peed on, all that good stuff. I did open that up and took a look at the section where this should have appeared, and sure enough, I saw another note that said C N3. Well, I have no idea what N3 is, so then I just had to figure out what in the heck this thing did. And to do that, I took a look at what it was. And it was a relay with 3 pairs of switches. One pair wasn't connected at all. The second and third pair were normally open. And so I traced the wires out, and one of them went over to the blue score booster relay, and the other one went to the magic screen unit disk when it steps up to position F. Yeah. And that's where it normally lights the blue section. So I thought about it for a minute, and I said, if these are normally open, then whenever this relay engages, which it would only engage if the blue score booster relay had kicked in, then the blue section would light. But I don't want that, because the blue score booster relay is going to give you 3 for 6 or 2 for 6. I want it to light 3 for 3. So I ended up defeating this relay rather than removing it, because some of the wiring on the blue score booster relay was creative in that it was impossible to tell what was factory and what was not just by looking at it. And as the wire colors had faded, I chose the path of least resistance and defeated each of the switches. Now, in looking through the rest of the back box, I started noticing a couple of yellow electrical tape tags. These tags didn't have, fancy CN3 tags underneath of them, but there was one on mixer number 3, and there was one on the control unit. Now, on the control unit, they had added an extra switch pair with its own spacer and everything. It was pretty impressive. On switch stack E. Now, or 5, depending on how you look at it. And then on mixer number 3, it looked like they just connected a lug that was previously disconnected. I have absolutely no idea what that lug on the mixer unit is doing. I need to research that a little more. But on the control unit, that switch was defeating the extra ball. It would step up to first and extra, but it would never advance to ball. That's because that particular switch was closed during the search cycle. That's a cruel trick, is what that is. So I defeated that switch as well, and the game started playing as it should. Except for 2 problems. These 2 problems took most of my day today in trying to figure out. Neither is fully resolved. The first was that the red replay counter would cause the game to go into tilt and replay reset. It would basically cause the game to temporarily lose power once it stepped a certain number of times. Now, the number of times that it took was random. It was somewhere above 12, but less than 25. And in looking at the wiring on that unit, it's very, very simple. There's only a handful of lugs. There's no wiring on the back of the disc. It's all surface traces. And the unit steps appropriately. I had taken care of that last time I was out. So I was puzzled until I started looking into the other problem, and that is that the Futurity game would never pay. There's a dedicated button on Bikini on the control rail. When you push it, it will grant you the Futurity game that you've built up in the upper right corner of the back glass. Now, I mashed this button about 1 billion times and I could not make it work. And this is one of those that's a little hard to test from the back of the game, because I wanted to see that the circuit path from the button would actually work. But when I tested it manually in the back box by just pushing on the Collect Futurity relay, it was doing all kinds of weird stuff. It was not zeroing out the Futurity stepper. And on top of that, it wasn't even holding the relay in. And I found this rather odd, but if I held it down manually, it would do what it was supposed to do except for zero out the Futurity stepper. So my first clue should have been that it didn't hold itself in. Now, most relays have a lock-in switch which will keep the relay active until it is finished doing its job, and then the power to that switch is cut further up the line. This causes the relay to release, and the game will function as you expect. It wasn't doing this, and really there's two reasons for that. One, your lock-in switch is dirty or disconnected, or two, there's a problem with your coil. I'll add the polite dummy to myself, because I looked around for the problem for quite a while, and then I realized that there was likely a problem with the coil. I went through all the wiring from the button to the back box, I'm embarrassed to say, and across 2 different Jones plugs, made sure that everything was working the way it was supposed to on both sides of that switch, all the way from the front to the back of the game, and everything checked out, and I said, great, but it still doesn't work. So then I got the bright idea of jumpering that relay. Now I wanted to test and see if that relay would actually work. And so I took the power from the anti-cheat relay, which is just a few above it. And for those who don't know, the anti-cheat relay is always active when you've started a game in a bingo. So the anti-cheat relay was holding in, and I took my jumper, and I jumpered to the power side of the Futurity Collect relay, and it shot out the biggest freaking spark that I have ever seen. It was incredible. It was more like a fireball and less like a spark. Of course, it didn't catch anything on fire. It was just a spark, but it was quite the sight, and then I realized exactly what the problem was, which 10 seconds with a meter would have told me if I had actually thought to try it earlier. The coil is shorted, and so it is drawing a massive amount of current. The amount of current it drew was so massive that it caused the power to the anti-cheat relay to drop out. Now these coils are connected in parallel, so that's no mean feat. But I have diagnosed the problem. Now I need to get a coil and install it, and then the last feature in that game will work. Extra ball is still a little finicky, and I have the extra ball liberal conservative feature adjustment Jones plug set to the most liberal, and it is still having a hard time giving up extra balls. It goes first in extra, and then occasionally it will give ball. Sometimes it will actually give 2 extra balls, but the unit itself is sound. Obviously there's a problem in the unit somewhere, but my guess is it's on the wiring side of the disc, which is going to be a joy to troubleshoot because I'll have to take the disc out and figure it out. But all things with time. I'll have this problem licked, and then that game will be back in circulation, which is pretty great. Now the game also has a hopper installed instead of the normal replay reset. When replay reset engages, it engages a special extra payout relay, which in turn engages the hopper, starts it spinning. Now the hopper will grab as many nickels as it takes and bring them up to a special gravity feed funnel, which then goes into the payout pocket underneath the front door. For each nickel that passes by a micro switch, it takes 1 replay off the replay register until there are 0 replays left. At that point, the hopper stops, payout relay disengages, the special hopper motor control relay disengages, and you've got a fistful of nickels. Now, in order to make this work, I had to reverse engineer this circuit. These did not come from the Bally factory installed. And the person who did this did it pretty well. They added Jones plug connectors. They marked everything very well as far as wire colors and so forth. They didn't have a bunch of weird splices or anything of that nature. I've seen some weird stuff, but this was actually pretty good. The only problem with this is that the replay reset, of course, is dependent on the hopper functioning, which it does. But if you don't have hundreds of nickels loaded in this thing, then there are going to be instances where the replay register does not reset to 0. So I've informed the customer of this, but hopefully next time I'll let you all know that Futurity is working again and the game is 100%. But for now, I'm pretty pleased with the progress. There's more to be done. I also took a look at a 4 million BC that was having startup issues, and I diagnosed a couple of problems, but have not corrected. So I'll be doing more of that next time I'm out there. But that's all for tonight. Thank you again for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-5444. 4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at nbaldridge. You can listen to us on Google Play Music. Or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.